What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to the Sports Talk on Tap podcast. We're here. You can find daily videos Monday through Friday, mainly covering the NFL with the NFL season officially starting today, but also the NBA, and we'll sprinkle in a little bit MLB, the playoffs right around the corner, and NHL along the way. But with that being said, right back to it. It is the NFL season. The wait is over since the Philadelphia Eagles last won the Super Bowl back in February. We have our first game tonight. The NFL season is officially back. So drop a like and a subscribe if you're ready for a bunch of NFL content, because we're going to be here, or I'm going to be here, covering all of it. And that starts tonight with the Dallas Cowboys going into the defending champs' house to take on the Philadelphia Eagles in an NFC East showdown, which, we'll preview it, see what we think, get my official game predictions, and we'll also do take a look at my analytical data I've been building to preview each week one game and what's different between my model I've been working on and my own predictions itself. But with that being said, Dallas at Philly tonight. I know everyone's going to be amped once again to see the defending champs take on the Dallas Cowboys, who had a crazy offseason and even last week, trade Micah Parsons. They've been in the news a lot. Jerry Jones, obviously, trying to make a lot of headlines and not for great reasons. But with that being said, we're just going to get right into it, preview some of the matchups and just kind of what I expect to happen tonight and where I think this game is going to go. But with that being said, get right into it. Just, I think everyone's glad, Cowboys, Eagles, and NFL fans, that we have a game tonight. We can sit down, watch some football, and just kind of break it down, watch the overreactions, the NFL memes. It's a lot of fun. But with that being said, so starting with the Dallas Cowboys. If they want to win this game, they're going to have to protect up front. Obviously, Philly has one of the best O-lines in the league, but one of the best D-lines as well. And the Cowboys, necessarily we'll probably have to match them in the trenches, and that's a lot to ask for. But guys like Tyler Guyton, Connor Beebe that started last year, they're going to need to take another step up in the game. Tyler Guyton, wasn't really all that great last year, but if he takes another step, and can hold off this Eagles pass rush and just give Dak time to throw, that's obviously one of the keys for this game. Because if Philly gets after him early, they take out a lead, they're forcing Dak to drop back and pass. Vic Fangio doesn't really blitz a lot, will only send 4. It could get ugly. But for Dallas, they're going to have to hold them. Obviously, no more Zach Martin with his retirement. So your Tyler Booker's going in at right guard. And then Steele, Tyler Steele, I believe, is also the right tackle. So Dallas is going to have to be able to contain Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, guys like Nolan Smith, which is a lot to ask for. Philly's pass rush obviously isn't as deep as it was last year, losing guys like Milton Williams, but it's still very good. So that's going to be the first key. And obviously, Dallas, Rico Dowdle, really came on at the end last year. They were kind of running him and Zeke, and obviously Zeke is not what he was before. So just kind of, after losing Tony Pollard, they didn't really have an answer at running back. And, this year, they're turning to a guy like Javonte Williams that had a lot of great flashes on the Broncos, but injuries have kind of derailed his career. So can he get back on track? And then another guy, Miles Sanders, was great in Philly behind that offensive line, went to Carolina, was not a great 2 years, to say the least. Chuba Hubbard obviously won the starting job over him, and he just, wasn't as efficient. Carolina's offensive line got a little bit better last year, but, for Miles Sanders, this kind of resurgence, maybe a little revenge for it, but Dallas can't be one-dimensional. They're going to have to establish the run and just make it somewhat of a threat, because no matter how great this passing attack is, when you become one-dimensional, you're going to lose to the Philly, because that plays right into Vic Fangio's hands. Send 4, just drop into coverage, and the Eagles got some ball hawks on their own in the secondary. But with that being said, the other preview for the Cowboys is you're going to have to be able to have your playmakers beat the secondary. Obviously, guys like Cooper DeJean, Quinyon Mitchell were amazing for them entering year 2. You expect them to take another leap. But for Dallas, you have CeeDee Lamb. You trade for George Pickens, who's a big playmaker. You have Jake Ferguson. You have weapons to throw the ball around. In Dallas this season, I would say the one thing that is a little bit overlooked is heading into last season, Dak and CD were not on the same page just due to contract disputes. They weren't practicing, and you could tell in that 6-7 games Dak played, they were just off rhythm. And, they became pass dimensional. They were forcing it, and it just didn't really work. But in 2023, when Dak was second MVP voting, CD had 1,800 yards. they were on point all season, clicking, and they've been back in training camp. I'm expecting to see more of 2023 with them, and then having another threat like George Pickens reminds me of when CD and Amari Cooper were together, and they had two very solid weapons. I think they were the number one offense in the league that season. So they're going to be a top 5 passing offense. And then obviously Jake Ferguson, a great security blanket. So having that running mate with CD will be helpful to help take the top off the defense and keep the Eagles honest. But, for obviously for them to win, CD or George Pickens are going to have to have a big day. If not both, I'm hoping CD because I drafted him in my fantasy football league. So shout out CD. But, with that being said, it will be interesting. Establish the run, maybe get some play action. Obviously, they can throw out a shotgun. But Brian Schottenheimer in Seattle gave Russell Wilson a career year in 2020, put him in MVP talks for like the first 10 games. And then they fell off a little bit because they became too pass happy. But, Brian Schottenheimer, you got to do the pat. You got to establish the run. Even if you're only getting 2 yards, keep the Eagles defense honest. Because that will be the key. But with that being said, yeah, I'm excited to see this Dallas passing attack, the addition of George Pickens, what does, because I think Dak and CD will be able to be on the same page, and this passing attack will look more like the 2023 team. But like I said, Zach Bond for the Eagles defense, one of the best coverage linebackers, was, I think, the highest grade linebacker by PFF last year. Quinyon Mitchell, same thing, great cornerback. Cooper DeJean really came on, was making plays in the Super Bowl. But they did lose a little bit of ven presence there. No more Darius Slay, no more CJ Gardner-Johnson. So another guy that'll step in is Adoree Jackson, who's pretty solid on the Giants, but that's still, question mark. So will Dallas try and target him? But Vic Fangio loves playing his zones. So will they just avoid Quinyon's zone? That'll be kind of an interesting matchup. Or if they are matched up, will CD or George Pickens be able to beat Quinyon? But Quinyon's a great corner, so that'll definitely be a matchup I'm watching for. And then when you go to the other side of the ball, the Eagles offense, I think, just has the big advantage in this matchup, especially in the trenches. Jordan Mailata, Lane Johnson, Landon Dickerson, Cam Jurgens, that it's not easy to replace Travis Kelce, a legend of this game, but they were able to do that. And he had a great rookie season last year. I'm pretty much expecting nothing different this time around. That offensive line is going to get going. Saquon should have a big day. I'm, not expecting Saquon to get the 300 plus touches he had last year, something ridiculous. Obviously, to get to the 2,000 plus yards, I think they want to keep him fresh. And, when you have a season like that, you're pretty much prone to an injury. So hopefully they're going to, do a split backfield. But, with that being said, it should just be another big Saquon game. This Eagles offensive line is gonna, I think, for Dallas, they just have a bunch of question marks on the defensive line. You added Kenny Clark, who I think can be a decent. I'm expecting a bounce back year from him, but no Micah Parsons. So you're not going to be able to get after the quarterback, really. You're relying on guys like Sam Williams, Dante Fowler Jr. coming in to replace that Micah Parsons production. And we'll have to wait and see tonight, but I don't think they'll be able to do it. I just think Philly will have success running the ball. Dallas is going to have to stack the box, probably trust their corners, where I think this matchup is going to come down to if Dallas has a chance at winning, their corners are going to have to make some plays with Deron Bland, fully healthy, Trayvon Diggs. They're facing A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, Malik Hooker in the secondary. I think it'll be an interesting matchup. I think if Dallas wins this game, they're going to have to force Jalen Hurts to make one or two mistakes and just, be able to make ball hawking plays, which Diggs and Bland can do, but they're also prone to giving up big plays. And A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith can take the top off the defense. I have Devontae Smith in one of my fantasy leagues, so hopefully he has a big game. But yeah, that'll come down to it for Dallas. I think they're just going to have to get some turnovers in the secondary, stack the box, and be able to hope to play some man-to-man with their ball hawk corners and be able to have success, because if they don't stack the box, I think Philly's just going to keep running the ball. And then obviously the tush push is another big thing that the Eagles can do in the short goal to go situations. I think they'll have success there. But with that being said, overall, if I have to give a score prediction, just it being an NFC East matchup, I think the Dallas offense is due for a bounce back season, but Philly's going to be lit in that home field environment, lifting up the trophy. Will there be a Super Bowl hangover or just kind of, come out with fire? I'm going to go with the final score of, I'll go Eagles 28, Cowboys 21. I think Philly will win by around a touchdown. I think Dallas will cover the spread, just given it's 8.5. And I think I have faith in this offense to be able to do something. I just see a bounce back year in the Dallas passing offense, and I think they'll keep it close just for pride, national television. But it could be the other way where you trade Micah Parsons and this Dallas team has already given up, and it's just going to be the Dak and CD show. They'll be able to put up maybe 20 points by themselves with George Pickens, but the running game can't help out at all. In Philly, just bullies this Cowboys defense and drops 42. That wouldn't surprise me as well. So I do think the Eagles win, but I think just for the first game of the season, I think Dallas might be able to backdoor cover this one. I just trust that passing offense, but the Eagles, I trust their rushing offense, their offensive line, their defensive line, their secondary. I think they pretty much have the upper hand in every category besides maybe passing offense. But even then, Jalen Hurts, Smithy, Dallas Goedert, AJ Brown, that's right there with Dak, Pickens, and Lamb and Ferguson. So with that being said, let me know your official predictions, who wins and by how much, a score prediction. I'm always excited to get your guys' thoughts. But with that being said, the next thing we'll transition into is my analytical model predictions I've been working on. So who wins each week one game, and I'll show you my picks that I made. And if you haven't already, make sure to go check out my video where I gave a preview of exactly my predictions, and we'll see them right here. So just kind of to recap, I had Philly over Dallas tonight, Kansas City over LA, Cincinnati over Cleveland, Tampa over Atlanta, Miami over Indianapolis, Carolina over Jacksonville, Vegas over the Patriots, Cardinals beating the Saints, Pittsburgh being the Jets, Washington being the Giants, Denver being Tennessee, Seattle being San Fran, Los Angeles being Houston, Green Bay beating Detroit, Baltimore beating Buffalo, and Minnesota, my Vikings, beating the Bears. Obviously, even if the Vikings were competing against the Eagles, I might pick them in week one just for hopes. But, with that being said, now we'll just get right into what my module's saying and what I've been working on, and compare it to what I think will happen, and just kind of see maybe after week one who had the upper hand, the analytics, and maybe will I start relying on them for my pool league where I'm going up against 40 plus people trying to win the week and predicting each game right. But with that being said, so first off, it had for the Eagles Cowboys, Eagles winning at home, I think taking care of Dallas just with the offensive line advantage they laid out. They're going to be able to run the ball effectively. The next game up, Kansas City versus LA, they give Kansas City a 57% chance to win this game, just with more offensive officially. If LA wins, it's going to come from some turnovers and explosive plays. Next up was Tampa Bay versus Atlanta, and this model actually gave Atlanta a 57% chance to win. So that's the first game we disagreed on. The AI model likes Atlanta beating Tampa Bay. I think that game, like I talked about, it's going to be an offensive shootout. I'm excited to see that. Next up was Cincinnati Cleveland. It gave Cincinnati a 56% chance to win. It must contain the edge pressure and avoid turnovers, which makes sense in Cleveland. Myles Garrett, that pass rush is going to get after it. Cincinnati's offensive line is pretty weak. It's still like Cincinnati, but I think the AI model might be right, and it could be a closer game than people expect. Miami versus Indianapolis. It gave Miami a 61% chance to win. Just quarterback play, the explosive pass rate. I mean, indoor game, September, Tua, Tyreek, Waddle. I think they're going to have a field day. And I think similar. You just don't know where you're going to get with Daniel Jones. So, another great one. And then New Orleans versus Arizona. It also took Arizona, kind of no fluke there. Jaguars versus Panthers, the second game we disagreed on. It is taking Jacksonville, and part of this was when I made the prediction. I thought Jalen Cooker was playing. He is on IR. But the main reason they have Jacksonville at home is just the wide receiver injury. The Carolina's O-line's banged up with the Meku Kwanu. And so will Josh Allen Hines be able to get after it, I think. And then the humid weather just down in Duval. Liam Cohen's debut, Travis Hunter. The model likes Jacksonville to win at home. So that's two games we disagreed on, the Atlanta and Jacksonville games. And then moving down the list, Pittsburgh versus the Jets. It took Pittsburgh as well with me, just the pass rush versus the Jets OL offensive line, and the Jets just have to avoid turnovers, but just TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith. I think Justin Fields in his first game may make a few mistakes. So the model likes this one as well. So we pretty much agreed on most of them so far. Las Vegas versus New England. I'm really intrigued by this. I live in New England, know a lot of Patriots fans. This game's going to be exciting. The model has us at very close. Las Vegas, 53% chance to win, but they just like the Raiders pass rush with Max Crosby, probably to get home a little bit against this New England O-line that's still a little bit of question mark despite drafting guys like Will Campbell and the explosive pass rate. Just with Geno Smith behind the helm now, you're going to get some more deep balls. You got guys like Brock Bowers there. Jacoby Myers is still there. Don't know if he'll play just with that contract, but they just trust the Raiders offense a little bit more. But New England at home, they definitely proved to make it better. And then Washington versus the Giants, a 54% chance to win. I think one of the biggest things was the offensive line question mark in our model for the Giants. And I do think the Giants defensive line can disrupt Washington, which is why I think the model only gives Washington a 54% week 1 division matchup. New quarterback Russell Wilson take care of the ball. But overall, only 2 games we disagreed on so far. And then Tennessee versus Denver. Denver has the advantage at quarterback just with Bo Nix. Cam Ward still a question mark. The pass rush will be able to get home against the Tennessee offensive line in that home field, especially in that altitude. Just probably going to be a lock for Denver, and the model agrees with that as well. Seattle versus San Fran. The third game we disagreed on, I took Seattle. The model like San Fran, just with the QB advantage with Brock Purdy, the trenches, O-line, Trent Williams, and Seattle's, they drafted Grey Zabel. The offensive line looked great in preseason, so I'm kind of banking on that. But Seattle or San Fran, still has guys like Nick Bosa that can get after the quarterback. And if they get after Sam Darnold, who's prone to taking sacks, it could be a rough day in just the explosive pass rate with guys like George Kittle, Juwan Jennings, Ricky Pearsall coming on. Despite me having my question marks about San Fran, the mall likes Seattle. So that's 3 games we disagreed on. Detroit versus Green Bay. The mall likes Detroit, just the EPA. They're more effective offensively. So that'll be the 4th game we disagree on because I have the Packers at home, just Micah Parsons. I think it's going to be a great game. But I think that addition might give them over the top. I think they're going to split, but I always like the home team in these matchups. So I took the Packers. It has the Lions. So that is 4 games we disagree on. And then Los Angeles versus Houston. They like the LA Rams. Similar, our model predicts. We just don't trust the Houston offensive line to hold up. So makes sense. Got the Rams in that one. Buffalo versus Baltimore. They give Buffalo a 57% chance. They said Baltimore keys to success is control the ground game, obviously with Derrick Henry and Lamar, and limit the explosive pass plays that Josh Allen can't get with this offense. So that's the 5th game we disagreed on. And then Minnesota, Chicago, a slight lean for Minnesota in this one. They just trust the offense more to have explosive pass plays just with Kevin O'Connell. But Ben Johnson, I'm excited to see what this game it looks like. Obviously, as a Vikings fan, can expect it to go either way. Caleb Williams basically entering his rookie season. I don't really count last year as a season just with that coaching and competence. But with that being said, these are AI model picks. So if you want to take notes, if you want to take some bets, trust our model. I'm excited to see what it can do for us. But let me know your guys' thoughts. Who do you guys having? Who's your favorite team? Who do you guys have week 1? What are your week 1 picks, and what upsets do you see happening, or any locks of the week? My lock is Arizona. I'm really high on the Cardinals this year, and just playing the Saints that have a lot of question marks, projected to be the number 1, have a number 1 overall pick next year. But it should be exciting. Even Saints fans, football's back. Guys are undefeated still, so everyone has a chance. But as always, if you like this content and are excited for week 1 football, make sure to like and subscribe because we're going to be coming at you with a bunch of content. But with that being said, I'll be here tomorrow to recap Eagles Cowboys. Should be a great one. As always, thank you guys for watching. Peace.